Hello, everyone, and I guess we should say happy 2018. This is our first YouTube chat for New Hampshire GEG. And this month's topic is going to be how you can actually create a digital breakout using any of the Google Suite products and making it digitally. And so we have three people on this quote-unquote panel, if you will. I am Craig Shield. I am one of the co-leaders for the group. We have Karen, who is joining us from Londonderry, and then we also have Jen, who is the other co-leader for the group. And today we're just gonna, talk through how, again, we can use G Suite to actually create, design, and implement a breakout. And I guess before we do that, we should probably explain what a breakout is for those that maybe aren't familiar with it. Karen, I'm going to put you on the spot. Would you mind explaining what that is?
Sure. I would describe Breakout as collaborative game-based learning. So you can take any type of content and create games so that people can learn about something. And so a traditional breakout, you would have a box and then you would have different locks. And participants in the game need to figure out clues for the combinations of those different locks. And so a traditional breakout, one that you would physically do, has a 5-digit lock, it has a 3-digit lock, 4-digit lock, a key lock, and a directional lock. And then there's other components you can also add to it, and people have, and there's different games online, but there's been a kind of a different push with Breakout to do them digitally. And so a lot of people have been creating games online using G Suite tools in order to do that.
Perfect. And you've participated in them before, right?
Yeah, I've done both the physical breakout with the different types of locks, and I've done the digital breakout.
What was your feeling when you first tried it out?
For me, this is a very different type of learning, and it's frustrating. But I know that about myself now that I do them. And so it was just frustrating because it's not linear, and I'm kind of a linear thinker. And I like to rationalize, but you have to be willing to kind of let go of that and think in different creative ways. So that's another great part of it, in that it makes you think outside the box, right? The digital one was even, more kind of abstract in certain respects for me. And so that was also, it was really fun, but it was definitely a challenge.
Yeah, I would say when I first did one, I was more of someone just watching, like, what's going on? What are people doing? How are people interacting? And then after about 10 minutes or so, when we started to get our clues, I was like, okay, now we need to figure this out. And so for me, it took me a little bit, but that's just who I am as a learner myself. So I think what we're going to do now that we've gone.
One thing, Craig, I think it's really neat to see how different people learn as well when you do these, right? And the way different people think. And so even when I've done breakouts with other people, people feel like they're slacking, so to speak. But then all of a sudden, something goes off in a participant's brain and all the clues start to come together at once, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, you really do get to see a different side of people. Like, oh, I didn't know so-and-so likes to do this, or is really passionate about that, or thought about this. And it is interesting. It is. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to share my screen. It's been a little while since I've done this here. All right. And can you just verify that you see my screen? Are you?
Yep.
Okay, you can. All right, perfect. Yep, so yeah, Jen says she sees it. She's joining us via audio this time around. Correct, Jen?
Yep, I am. I'm listening in. I'm very excited. And I need to add that Karen has been working a lot on bringing it to our district, so I'm very excited about this.
That's great. That's great. So this is just the main page to Breakout. If you want to know more about it, like Karen said, you could see right here that there's a box, and there's all these different locks that are tied to that box. And the goal is to, again, break into this with the time frame, typically 45 minutes. And so there's, you can just go to breakoutedu.com, find out all about it. There is a cost to this, but you can find out all the details about this particular thing right here on this page. And so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of shift into, all right, so you could do this physically, and a lot of people like to do it in a physical space, but maybe money is an issue. And maybe you want a way by which you can actually do something similar for free. And so people are starting to create digital breakouts as a result of that, or they want to try something different. And I think Karen can attest to this as well. Both of them have their own strengths. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. I would definitely agree. They have different strengths, and they're both really fun, and I would encourage you to try either one.
And so before we go any further, so here is the link to our Google Doc, where we'll have some resources and links to things that we are sharing. So feel free to jot that down, take a picture of it, whatever you need to do so you can access this later on. But we are going to share a slew of different resources. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually show you Breakout EDU's digital sandbox. So you'll notice that this is actually created in the old Google Sites. It has that old look to it. And there was this group of people who said, you know what, we can do this digitally, and let's create a sandbox so that other people can actually use ones that we, that have been made already. Why reinvent the wheel? You also might be able to get inspired by what's in here and be like, hey, you know what, I actually could do this, or maybe I'll look at this. But basically, you can look at, you can search for people who've actually created, as well as you want to maybe search a particular subject, grade level, and from there you can actually see what has already been created. Now these right here are most likely created with Google Sites, and so that's going to be one of our major focuses in this conversation. But what's really great about this is this resource, this space, also provides a page that guides you along the process of how to actually create, how to design. A lot of times we see things and we're like, hey, that's really cool, but I want to know how to replicate that, or I don't think I could do this. But in reality, you really can. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share, or I'm going to show you real quickly one that I created with two people. One is the librarian that I work with, Jesse Gilchrist, and another is a colleague that I work with, Mary Murata, who I co-teach some graduate courses with. And but basically, I worked with my librarian, and we came up with this idea of, oh, this whole teacher nightmare, and let's provide some professional development, show teachers that they can actually, let's have them participate in one digital breakout, and then we can show them how it's done. And so basically, this is just a one slide, or not one slide, but a one-page Google site. And it is in the new Google Sites. And all the information that's necessary to complete this can be found on this page. Now, what I'm not going to do is I'm not actually going to click on everything and to tell you how to break out, if you will, quote unquote, breakout digitally. Instead, I'm going to show you how you might actually put this together and some things that you need to know. So Karen had mentioned that in order to actually break out on the physical breakout boxes, you have to, what did you say was in the actual box? There's like a number.
Yeah, so there's a 3-digit number lock, a 4-digit number lock, a lock that has a physical key, and then there's a lock that has 5 different letters on it that you can make a word.
Okay.
And
a directional?
Yeah, directional. I always forget that directional. The directional lock. Yep.
Yeah, who knew that there was such a thing before Breakout? I didn't.
No, I didn't.
So,
fun fact.
yeah, there's your fun fact of the day. There's a directional lock, folks.
Yeah.
All right. So instead of that, we have to create and replicate that thing digitally. And so the way that that's done is through a Google form. So you'll notice on the left-hand column, there's this form. And based on this particular game, there's a 4-letter lock, a numerical. There's another letter lock that's 8. We do have a directional lock, but it's that same concept. And the way this works is once you start typing things in, for instance, if I type, let's pretend it's 1, 2, 3, 4, it's telling me, in fact, that that lock is still locked. We didn't actually break into it, and we have to continue to figure that thing out. And so the goal is just like the physical, to be able to find out all the answers to these in order to be able to hit submit. All right, so that's one major piece. The other major pieces is actually being able to come in and figure out, where do we want people to go? What do we want to link, etc. So what I'll do is, let's see, what should I do?
I think it's important to mention, Craig, that if you do the physical breakout or you're doing, a digital breakout, those planning sheets that Craig had shown earlier are so important in just staying organized as you create one, so that you can keep track of the different combinations and how participants will get the ability to solve those different codes.
Yeah, and you definitely want to write things out just so you kind of have a little map. I would agree with that. So what I did is I went up and I just went to sites.google.com/new, and that'll bring you to the new Google Sites. And I'm just going to quickly make one and start from scratch here. So you could say new breakout. Maybe if I spell it correctly. Okay, so then what I'm going to do from here is, make a text box and say, story goes here. And I'll just, basically make a column, if you will. And I just go ahead and write the story, right? And so what we're going to do is over here on the right-hand side, maybe we'll go ahead and put in our actual form. So in order to do that, in order to have a form work the way you want to work, there's just a little workaround that you have to do. So I'm going to go ahead and make a form, and I'll just call this test. And right down here, we'll say a 4-digit numerical block. Okay. And we are going to leave it as a short answer, but here's the trick. I'm going to make it required, but at the bottom here, we're going to actually have description, and I'm going to say no spaces and only numbers. And then down here, the number, let's see, I'll get rid of that guy. I'm going to go to response validation. If the number equal to, and let's say it is 1, 2, 3, 4 is in fact the answer. If it's not that, then still locked. Okay. So what we did is down at the bottom here, the three dots, we included a description as well as response validation, meaning that when they respond, we want it to be able to tell us whether it's correct or not correct, whether I've unlocked it or it's still locked. So if I test this, we'll keep our fingers crossed I did this right. So if I type 1111, it says it's still locked. If I go 1, 2, 3, 4, I no longer get that message, and now that one piece is unlocked, right? And so I could continue. I could do another one, and maybe we'll say it's a 5-letter lock. And so I would do the same thing, make it required, 3 dots, have a description, and this time I might say caps, or all caps, no spaces. Because if I did lowercase, or if I did an A space, C space, etc., it's not going to actually say that it's correct. It has to be specific. And so this time we'll say if the text contains, or is there a, it contains. And so maybe we'll say A. If not, still locked.
Craig, have you ever done the a blank in that on the 5-letter lock when you do a digital?
Say that again.
Have you ever done the blank space? So in a physical breakout, there's a blank on the lock. Have you ever done a blank space?
Oh, interesting. No, I have not.
I'm just asking because let's say someone was thinking of taking one of their physical breakout games and making it digital. Have you ever tried it? Was it successful or not? But if you haven't,
I have not. So if there is a space, I would maybe say all caps and then parentheses space.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I don't know.
If used, counts towards one of the 5, right?
Yeah.
So let's do a space in the middle there. Let's try this. Let's see if that works. So we'll go down here. So I'll say AA space AA. So it does work.
Cool.
But you would have to, again, in the description, probably provide that little info there.
Yeah.
So as long as it matches perfectly, it'll actually unlock. So that, to me, when I first did this, I thought it was a little confusing in that I wasn't getting this right in terms of in order to make it work. But it really is if the number is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, otherwise, this really means otherwise, this is the message that pops up. Makes sense?
Yeah, that was good clarification. Thanks so much for that.
Makes sense. Okay, so then if I now go to the new Google Sites, because we've made that, if you will, that physical box now into a form, we're going to go down under the Insert menu here, all the way down to Forms, and it will search my Google Drive for all the forms. Here's the one that we just did. And then I can shrink this and drag it up and drag it as far down as I want. And if we want to see what this looks like for the actual viewers, I just hit that eyeball, and then I can see that my actual form has embedded it the way that we want it to be embedded. Okay, so the other thing that I think is important is just how do you link things? How do you insert things, connect things? So while it may be obvious, if I want this to actually open to something else, you just highlight text. And once you highlight text, this actual toolbar shows up, and we can choose the little insert link, or you do notice that it does give you a Control K or Command K if you're on a Mac. And then you can actually link to things. That's one thing that you can do. Another thing you can do is be a little creative. We'll pretend that that's an image. I just took a picture of something. You can actually say insert or upload. And we'll do what I just took a picture of. And you can actually have images be links to things. So if I click this and then I link this to google.com, images can now be clickable. So if I don't know if in preview mode, let's check this out. If I click that, no, it will open. So you can not only link text, but you can also link images. The other thing I think I would mention is how do you be creative? All the clues. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Jesse Gilchrist and I had 5 different clues that needed to be solved, or locks, I guess, needed to be solved. And everything could be found right from here. So like this image will open up. It'll actually open up a document. Now here's one trick. You could see that this is just like a little note. And for some people, they're like, hey, wait a minute, there's some, like, that's weird. I have to scroll down. Like, what's going on? So, you know, you could do things like have a clue be hidden with the background color of a Google Doc. So this was a Google document. We had a background color of a certain color. And then we just wrote text in there and had that text just match that color. So if you didn't know that you can actually change the color of a document, the way that that can be done, I'll just quickly show you. I'll just open a Google Doc and we'll say test document. And we'll say, if I can spell today, here is your clue. Maybe. All right, here we go. Here is your clue. So what you could do to change the color, background color of your actual document is you have to go into File, Page Setup, and you'll notice a spot right here that says Page Color, and let's make that green. So now if I take that and highlight the text that I want to be a clue to be hidden, I can now go into where you would typically change the color of your text, and now it is no longer available. It is as if that thing didn't exist at all. But again, if I highlight, I'm now able to actually see that text. So that's one trick I find a lot of people use.
Yeah, that's neat. That would, again, if you're just looking to take that idea of the pen in the physical breakout, that's a way to completely kind of replicate that experience to make it a digital breakout, which is neat. And
do you want to explain the pen you're talking about?
Yeah, so there's a pen that comes with the breakout kit, and you would circle words on a piece of paper. And then as the person who's coordinating the breakout, and then your participants would take a flashlight that's a special kind of blacklight flashlight, shine it on the paper, and then they would see those words that were circled or the numbers that were circled, and that would be the key to the code or the combination to the combination to the locks. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. So this is another way to just take that idea and do it digitally.
Now, Jen, did you want to mention something as well?
Yeah, I was just doing some training recently, and changing the background color of a Google Doc, even if it's just a regular Google Doc that you're giving out as an assignment with students. If you have students with visual impairments such as dysgraphia, dyslexia, using pastel colors such as a pastel green or yellow or blue helps to keep the print from floating off the page with them. And so there's a lot of tools that do color overlays, but also even changing the color background, because black on white for those students allows the print to start floating on them or blurring. So it's actually just a helpful tip for your struggling learners with visual impairments too.
Absolutely. And a lot of people don't know that, you know, well, how do I change that background color? And so again, that's in File, Page Setup. And I just even find that, you know, now that a lot of schools are moving into a one-to-one platform, why not change the color of a document? Yeah,
I agree. It's more visually appealing and inviting.
Absolutely. If kids are looking at screens and teachers are looking at screens, maybe add some color if you do have students that, you know, can actually, color isn't going to be an issue. So I think the only other thing that I want to mention is that Breakout EDU Digital, the actual website, does provide, you know, how-tos. So some of the things that I just shared, as well as how you can have it send an email right away. If they send an email to a particular address, how to get it, how to automatically show up, or how you can shorten a link, or how you can force a copy to a Google Doc, etc. Lots and lots of resources there. But what you'll also notice is that there's, in fact, a Google Doc. And in this Google Doc, this is great, a curated resource that provides a website if you need a fake phone text based on the storyline that you have, or you need a ticket because you're quote unquote flying somewhere, or you just want it to create a puzzle, and it's as if kids are actually putting together a jigsaw puzzle, and all you're doing is just uploading an image. So all of this right here, match the memory. One of our clues was you had to be able to play Mary Had a Little Lamb on a piano online. And so by doing that, then a clue opened up. So it's just a different way of being creative when you are actually creating your own breakout. And I think these can be used whether it's a physical or a digital breakout. So definitely something to take a look at when you are at that point and you want to actually create your own game. But, you know, other things you could do, you can, I think we had some sort of business card. So we used Google Drawing to create a fake business card. And if you actually clicked on the Twitter bird, it actually opened up an actual Twitter profile. If I click on this book, we just linked to a YouTube video. And, you know, whether you screencast something or you find a YouTube video, you know, the possibilities are endless as to what you can do. It's just, I think I want to go back to what Karen said. It all comes down to, you know, mapping things out and figuring out how something's going to connect with something else in terms of eventually opening up a clue.
Right. Yep. And I think that sometimes when you plan something to go one way with a breakout, participants may take it in a very different direction. So you just have to be ready for that flexibility as well, and recognizing as the facilitator when you need to step in and kind of redirect, because sometimes participants will go the wrong direction. Like I participated in Craig's breakout that he was just showing with the video, and my group was going the wrong direction with the clues, and he and Jessica Gilchrist, who were both facilitating it together, they definitely redirected us at that time to kind of say, hey, you know, maybe look at that a different way. Because while you may have one intent, your participants may go a completely different direction.
Yes, that is correct. And I would also mention, some of you people like, oh, I've never made a Google site before, or, you know, like, I'm just not there. That's just way too far. I have actually had staff in my school who've actually just taken it down to a different level and actually have a Google Doc. And that Google Doc, think of, you know, the big buzz right now is HyperDocs. And one of those examples is I've seen it a lot, where it's the HyperDoc is like a game board, and you have like 9 different boxes. And so each box just goes to something. So one might, so in Spanish, Spanish teachers, one box went to a Spanish soap opera video about something that they were learning. And there was a clue in there. And then another one went to some vocabulary, and another box went to an article, another box went to a Google Doc. And so instead of making a Google site, the actual teacher just had a HyperDoc-like game board in one page of a Google Doc. And in the center was the link to the Google form. And that's where students just filled in their answers. So you don't have to do this grand big thing in order to have this game-like learning experience that we call Digital Breakout. And it just, you know, the original ones just happen to be on a Google site. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that as well. Creativity can happen anywhere, and it can happen at different levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that idea of Google Drawing and taking that HyperDoc idea with those 9 squares and having that in the middle. I think that would be great. And a lot less daunting, like you said, because some people feel, even though there's the new Google Sites, some people are still thrown off by that concept of Google Sites and how do I structure it, whereas a Google Drawing is just so less threatening.
Sure, sure. One thing I should mention, and then I'm going to have Karen just talk about her experience as well. If I pop back into my Google site here, for those of you, as we're talking about, like some people have never used a new Google site here, you can, I had indicated that I only used 1 page in mine and I just linked things out from there. But you do have the ability on the right-hand side to add other pages. So I've also seen breakouts where someone will make a page and call it like Clue 1. And then on this page, if I go back to the insert, this page, this is where people would add text and they would ask students to do something or to figure something out here. And then they would go back to pages, make another clue page, Clue 2. So for some, in terms of designing, that's one way you could do it. Again, I had mentioned that with mine that I did with just Gilchrist. We actually just did everything on the quote-unquote home page. We didn't have any offshoots from there. Also, when you're in a new Google site, there is that theme section. So this is where you can, in fact, change the theme, the style, the colors, the text. There are some limitations, but you do have that ability. You can also even upload your own image. So if it pertains to your actual concept, if I go select image and maybe it's something relating to, I don't know, the big adventures of the ocean or the beach or what, I can pull in this image right here and have that be in the actual heading. I'll just name this, call this test breakout. And then when you're ready, it's just a matter of coming over here to the publish. And automatically it'll come up with, I'm in my school domain here, so it'll have sites.google.com, your school domain / and then whatever you named it, I'll just add that to the end. I'll say anybody here, request it not to show up on public search engines, and then I'll hit publish. The important thing to note is that moving forward, if I do make some changes here, and I just come in and add this guy, this last sentence, if you will, of content will not show up on the public side unless I come back here and hit publish. So that's really important to note. Google does autosave everything that you do, but in order for the public to see the ultimate result, you do have to hit publish. It's always the same link. It's just a matter of hitting that publish button. And then you can either view the published site this way, or you could do the eyeball. But regardless of whichever one you're going to use, you just want to make sure that you're on the actual link that people can see. And then it's just a matter of maybe I'll use the shortened URL that I think we've shown several times in our actual previous conversations. And I can actually then shorten this, copy it, and then share it out with those that need access to it. So I just wanted to close the loop on that piece. If you do, in fact, decide, and I do encourage you to try it out on a Google site. To me, the new Google site is about, I don't know, 10 times, if not more, better than the traditional classic Google sites, just with the mere fact that you are just literally pulling in a Google Doc or a YouTube video or a Google form. The one thing that you need to know, though, without, I'm sorry, gather your thoughts, Craig. Without, that's the word, not including Google Forms, everything else, you do need to make sure that the permission level is anybody with the link Otherwise, even though you're putting it on the site and it's a public site, that ultimate permission of those files still hold true. And you do, in fact, need to go up to the blue share button and change that to anybody with a link. A Google form, the only restriction would be if it's tied to your domain, and that would be the only thing you would have to worry about. So if I'm in my form, what I'm talking about is in the settings gear, you'll want to unrestrict if you're having people outside your school district filling out that actual form. But other than that, everything else, pay attention to the actual sharing permissions of the file. Okay, so we'll switch gears real quick here. Karen, do you want to just quickly talk about your journey and how you're, you could just talk about how you're walking through creating your own?
Sure, yeah. So let me...
And we'll note that Karen is starting to create her own with physical, with the physical breakout concept.
Right. So for me, I create a folder when I'm going to start creating a breakout. And I really like to try to think of what I want people to kind of learn. And honestly, I was looking through a lot of the games that are on the the Breakout EDU site, and Escape the Ordinary was a game on there that had really great modeling of, posting your learning outcomes for people if you're trying to train on a specific content. And so for our game, when I first started, I said, okay, I want my learners, and that's going to be administrators, it's going to be teachers, it could be guidance counselors. I want them to access some of our new professional resources. And so I created 3 I can statements, learning targets, your school district may call them. Some districts are calling them standards, but whatever you're calling them, I wanted to be clear that throughout this game, my participants were acquiring certain skill sets. And so I put those 3 down right here. And then I kind of brainstorm ideas, and then I execute them. And then I just scroll down, and then I tried to think of what's going on right now in the world, or what's coming up. And so for me, the Olympics, right, came to mind. I started to see those posted. And so I started to create a breakout based around the theme of the Olympics and created a story. Now, this is where my story is right now, but again, it has morphed as I've created my game. And then I always try to think, how is all of this connecting back up to those learning outcomes that are at the very top of my screen? And then within this folder that I created, I started to try to think of creative ways that people could be exposed to the content. And so one thing I did was I created memes, and I gathered them all, excuse me, in a Google slide, just so that I could have all that content in one place. And then if I share out this breakout, other people can access it. So I did a screenshot of memes I created on makeameme.org. And tried to have a clue on there for people to reference a website that we have for the district. And so you'll notice that on each of these memes, I have choosing a book, and that's something they have to reference on a website, again, that we created.
Awesome. Who doesn't like a good meme?
They are popular, right? And so that's, again, how am I going to get people to participate, and something that people really love seeing. And so a lot of people love memes now. And I wanted memes that really showed different feelings. I have Frodo here, I've got Forrest Gump, and then this guy with the fist that we all seem to see everywhere.
We do. We do.
Yeah. So, and
that one.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, right? And so then in here in this Google document, I created a letter. So there's a little box in a physical breakout that's apart from the large box. And so within my small box, I put this note and my participants really have to explore an online database that we have, and I wanted them to start to learn to use it. So I found a chapter title within a book, and then they have to find the book title, and this last column, they'll put the titles, the first letter of the title right there, and then they'll get their letter code. And it's super easy to insert a table like this. You just can go insert table, and then I did a 3x6, I think it is here, right? And you can make the table as big as you need, and then stretch the once the table's made, you can kind of stretch the columns to make them bigger or smaller if you want to change the size of things. So just a little tip in there.
And I think that, and what you're even showing, Karen, is even though you are not creating a digital breakout, you are still using some digital components in terms of creating things in Google.
Yeah, it's such an easy platform, and there's so much sharing that happens in Google, right? And collaboration. And even when you go on the breakout site, you'll see that so many people have shared whole folders like this of the resources that they've created within their Google account. Yeah, yep. Another part is a poem that I created to kind of give them clues into things. And then I embedded a drawing. Sorry, not a, yes, I embedded a Google drawing. So I inserted a drawing. Actually, I should back up 1 minute, Craig, sorry.
No, you're fine. Don't worry about it.
So in order to get this, I got this image from one of our databases through the library, and then I cited it, as you can tell. But in order to do that, I did insert a drawing, and then you'll get a box that comes up like this, and then you can click on image, and then choose an image that you would want to upload. I can just pick an image that's on this particular computer right now. Hold on. I am sorry, everyone. I am home right now, and my daughter just woke up from a nap, so she is confused and wants to know where Daddy is.
It's all good. Don't worry about it.
So then I would put a text box underneath this. Come on over, Grace. Or on the side, and I could enter my text, save and close, and that will put it right into my my Google document. So really easy, and I like how it groups the image and the text together. And so that's what I had done on my poem right here. That's a different image. I had two different images. So there's a lot of different things you can do using the different Google tools, just like Craig said, and integrate this. And that's kind of why I brought up twice during this session, the idea of taking the materials you create in your Google Drive folder, and then you can easily move them to be a digital breakout.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. I'd be curious to know in the future if you actually decide to do that.
I am hoping to do that, and I've really been trying to think of ways to do it. And you gave me a couple ideas just in this session.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
All right. So I think what we'll do is, I'm just noticing time here, and I will do, since Jen actually doesn't have her physical laptop in front of her, I will take on the let's showcase a quick Google Chrome extension. And so what I'm going to do is, let's see, I'm going to open up a new Google Doc. And this one, I think is, someone is from the, I believe it's EdTech team, is trying to solve the problem that they hear from teachers that, you know what, it's just complicated grading online and providing feedback, and we just need an efficient way to do that. So there is a Chrome extension called Checkmark, and it is from EdTech team that's in California. But basically the way this works is, so you've received a student document and it's now time to do and give some feedback. So traditional method is, I'm going to highlight here, and then I'm going to click on, oh, can you see my screen, by the way?
I cannot. I see you, Craig.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, I just realized. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I don't see it.
All right, here we go. Okay, do we see my document?
We do, yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. Okay, so the traditional method would be to highlight, right? So we're going to highlight, then we come over here and we add our comment. Great job. Can you give us more input or more thought, whatever. Okay, so that's what a typical method of actually providing comments. An alternative is if you actually use, and so I've already activated checkmark, and all I did, what you didn't see, so my apologies. So right here, this guy looks like a little paper, and it has a check mark in it. When I was ready to use this, I just selected it, and it turns green. And then what I have the ability, let's see if this works. If I double click, this keyboard shows up. And so I have some options. And right now, these are the options that the creator has provided. And on their actual website explaining how this product works, there's a frequently asked questions section, and someone has already asked, hey, can I provide my own codes? And currently you can't, but it is something that they're looking into. So if I go ahead and select this guy right here, it's automatically going to make a comment that says new paragraph needed. So what this individual has done is that they found probably the most common statements that teachers might make to students. And instead of me having to take the time to highlight and use the shortcut keys to open up a comment or to click on comment and then type new paragraph needed, that's already been done for me. So if I come in here again, I'm going to double click. I might choose this one. Hey, that section is repetitive. Maybe right here, I need a new paragraph again. Maybe this one, I need, I don't know, check capitalization, etc. So what is also great is you're going to notice along the side here that there are some random numbers. And those numbers actually aren't random in that it will actually keep count and track of the number of times a particular code is used. So you notice that there are 2 new paragraphs.
Wow.
2 new paragraphs needed, only 1 repetitive, only 1 check capitalization. And what's really great about this is it very quickly, easily tells the teacher and the student what the student needs to work on, right? You can have so many comments. You might have, I don't know, 25 comments down by the time you're done providing feedback on the document. But now I can quickly see, hey, this student needs help with figuring out when they need a new paragraph. So I think that's very clever. The only other thing that you should note is if you want to explain more with this actual statement here, if I go into edit, I can add some stuff to that, but you have to actually click 3 dots and add it if you wanted to add more content to that. But you notice as a result of doing that, it's now changed that number because it's thinking that new paragraph needed. Because there's other stuff with this, it's now saying it's no longer the same. So if I go back in and change that, a different way of dealing with this is when you click on the comment, you just provide more stuff in the reply. Don't forget to do this and that. And that comment right there is not, oh, I lie, it does affect. My apologies, I didn't think it did. So it looks like no matter where you are, it looks like it does in fact need to be the same, exactly the same. So in that case, if I did want to provide more feedback, I think what I would do is I would provide another comment along the side that would give a little more explanation as to what I wanted to add. But I just think it's a really, I think the #1 complaint people have when it comes to transitioning online is the fact that it's complicated grading wise. And this Chrome extension, I think, is trying to help teachers be a little more efficient, but still provide the information that they want to provide to students. Jen, I don't know if you've seen that before or used it.
No, that was pretty cool. I really liked that. Actually, I was going to ask if you could share your screen because I can't share mine. There's one that I have that I started using because I've had a lot of times where people have asked me, Jen, I have pictures in my Drive folder. I wish there was an easy way to make a slideshow. And Alice Keeler came out, and you've probably used this one. And you can just search Drive Slides Alice Keeler. Do a quick search. It should come up. And basically, you can put any pictures into a Drive folder, and the extension will take all the pictures in that folder and instantly create a slideshow of all the photos. So you have an instant. So you could have. I had one of 80. It's kind of big. I had to take them down. I would start smaller. So I was doing one showing how to they'd taken 30, 40 pictures, just tap on the extension, there it is, Drive Slides, tap on the extensions, it actually takes and creates a slideshow of all the pictures and puts it into the same folder so you can find it, and then you have an instant slideshow to share of those pictures.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And that can be a great way when you are, I'll piggyback on what you're saying, if you have students using Google Classroom, and you're asking them to take a picture of their work, or you're having them take a picture of something, Google Classroom puts it all in one folder. And then again, by doing what you had just said, Jen, using this extension, it can quickly put everybody's into one Google slide presentation, and away you go. Then you've curated everything and you didn't have to spend time doing it. It's really amazing how we're trying to save time so that we could do more important things, have time to do more important things. Yes, I am a big fan of that one as well. Okay, Karen, did you want to add anything, or?
No, what was the name of the one you highlighted first?
Checkmark.
Yeah, that checkmark is amazing. You know, I know a lot of people were using go into preferences and kind of modify, I think it's your preferences, and insert your own comments. But I love those little red bubbles at the end. I think that it can really help any teacher with comments, because so many times we all have to correct some kind of writing. And sometimes people say, I don't know how to correct writing. I don't know what type of comments to put. And those are some of the most typical comments that any teacher could be putting on a document. So it really helps all of us to build our capacity in reinforcing the same skills, which is amazing.
Absolutely. All right. So I think we're going to end early. Hey, look at that. It was a snow day and we're ending our session early. Amazing. But anywho, I just want to make note that next month we are currently going to, or our idea of topic is going to be having a conversation with librarians in the state of New Hampshire, and just how do librarians use G Suite and the features that are available. I think it'll be a really great conversation to have. We haven't had this type of conversation before, so I'm really looking forward to it. Jen, I don't know if you have any upcoming events that you know of that you want shared?
No, there's the New Hampshire CTO clinic this Friday, but other than that, not at this time.
All right. Okay, sounds good. Well, we'll say, hope everybody enjoyed your snow day. I think most people had it off today, and we'll see you all next month. Thank you very much.
Have a great night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.